Welcome to Bravo Charlie's. I'm Charlie. This is my new cooking channel. Something I love, something I want to share with others. On this channel, we're not really going to develop new recipes or come up with new things that you haven't seen before as far as recipes are concerned. These are going to be traditional recipes. I have about 20 episodes in mind for the coming months. I'm going to try and release them weekly. But these recipes are going to be things that you've had in your family tradition most likely for a long time. What I want to show you are techniques and how you can possibly make a twist on a favorite recipe to just change it up a little bit. But techniques on how to use the tools in your kitchen. You could have the best tools in the world, but if you don't know how to use them, you can't build a house. I want to show you the proper ways to use simple tools that are already in your kitchen to cook a really delicious meal. And in our first episode, we are going to do tomato soup. I like a creamy tomato soup with some basil, some croutons on top, some fresh cracked pepper. I'm going to show you how to do all this. I live in Pittsburgh. It's the middle of January, so it's cold outside. So my next few episodes are all going to feature soups or things that are warm and hearty, great for wintertime lunches and dinners. So let's get started and I'll show you the ingredients you'll need. In the very near future, I will have www.bravocharlies.com where all the recipes will be listed and you'll be able to get the ingredients and print everything off. But for the time being, I'll go through the ingredients of creamy tomato soup and show you all the different amounts, so you could write this down or watch the video and make this. I'm going to try and keep the video to under 10 minutes so it would be simple to do and make this for dinner or lunch in your own kitchen. So we definitely need fresh cracked pepper. If you don't have a pepper mill, you have to buy one. This is a necessity for any kitchen. If you have just regular shaker pepper that's on just about every counter or kitchen table in America, that's great. This is better. Get a pepper mill. The taste is 100 times better. Kosher salt for seasoning, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, basil that we will chop up at the end for garnish and flavor on top of the soup, tomato paste. This is an important one. Tomato paste, if you can find it in your grocery store in these little metal tubes, it is so much nicer than buying the can. Everybody knows those cans of tomato paste that you can purchase. You need a couple tablespoons. You don't know what to do with the can, end up throwing it away and wasting it. With this, it's like toothpaste. You just squeeze out what you need, put a cap back on it, and throw it in the refrigerator, and it's good until the next time you need it. 1 onion, 1 carrot, half a teaspoon of thyme. Dried thyme is what I have. I typically have an herb garden in the summertime. I don't have any fresh right now. If a recipe calls for fresh herbs, for instance, this recipe called for 1 teaspoon of fresh herbs. Dried herbs, you cut in half because they're more powerful when they're dried. So instead of 1 teaspoon of fresh, we have a half teaspoon of dried thyme, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 large can of peeled whole tomatoes. These are San Marzano tomatoes. Considering that this soup is all about the tomato and that is 100% of its flavor, you want to get a very good tomato. San Marzano, you could find these in most grocery stores. It's not a brand, it's a type of tomato. Highly recommended, good flavor. We need some stock or broth to make this soup, and we're going to use garden vegetable. I think it's 2 to 3 cups. I'll let you know for sure when we're adding it. And to cream it up at the end, we will be using just heavy cream. Whipping cream or heavy cream, same thing. Okay, to get started, the vegetables go in with the tomato paste and the olive oil first. So before we start cooking anything, let's prep the vegetables and get them ready. All you have to do for the carrot is just dice it up real fine. Give it a couple chops. Cut into strips. And then once you have it into strips, you can cut it down into even. And if you're to cut, when you're doing something like this, hold your fingers on one side and just use it as a lever, and come down through the vegetable that you're cutting. Safe way to cut it. You won't nick your fingers because one finger is holding the handle, the other one is holding the tip of the blade. So it's a very safe, efficient way to cut. Just go through in even portions with the carrot. We're going to puree this at the end, so the size doesn't matter a whole lot. You just want it to be cooked evenly. Okay, now on to the onion. I'm going to show you the proper way to cut an onion, especially when you need it diced, or maybe not diced, but cut into small chunks, all even chunks. There is a specific way to do this. It's extremely simple. First, let's get rid of the outer layer of skin. Once that's gone, you don't cut the onion down the center like that. You cut the onion straight down through the top of it, cutting it in half so you have two perfect half moons basically. What you do here is you want to slice down through, but not through the whole onion. About 90% of the way through. But see how I'm leaving this one portion still attached right there? So you slice down through about 1/4 of an inch thick. Go all the way through the onion. Now, when you cut this and you go through the onion, it breaks apart because remember, there's many layers to the onion. So as you cut it like this, you've already sliced it, and now as you cut it through, it breaks itself apart. And you want to keep your fingertips back. Always put your knuckles forward so the knuckles are against the blade, not the fingertips underneath it. Now as you go down through it, everything is in nice even chunks. And I will do the other one and then come back and continue putting this together. Okay, the cutting board is clean. Everything's organized. It's time to add, the oil is hot. Let's add this there's 2 tablespoons of tomato paste here. Let's add that in. And you want to let this cook for 1 minute. And once that's cooked, then we're going to add this and let the vegetables cook down. You want to use a large pot. You can see the tomato paste in there. You want to use a large pot because tomatoes will splash, especially when they're boiling. They'll tend to pop as the bubbles come through the liquid and splash. So the larger pot that you have, the easier it is to contain the mess afterwards. And I just got splashed by a little oil right there. So let's add the carrots and the onions. Stir this together. We are also going to add a little bit of cracked pepper and about a teaspoon of salt in this. We can always add more salt later. You can't take the salt away if you put too much in now. So basically we have the onions and carrots cooking down, mixed in with the tomato paste. We'll let this cook for about 5 minutes and then we'll come back. Okay, now we're ready. We've let this cook for about 5 minutes. The onions are getting soft, a little translucent. You want to add all of the tomatoes in one shot. Put it down in the pan or in the pot so it doesn't splash, because nothing will splash like a tomato. And we are also going to add the ½ teaspoon of thyme. So you're going to want to cook this. I'm going to take the heat back down a little bit so we don't burn this. A little bit over medium, a little under medium high. You're going to want to cook this for about 10 to 15 minutes and keep stirring it. Okay, it's been about 10 or 12 minutes since we added the tomatoes. They've come to a boil. They've pretty much all broken apart. The carrots and onions are nice and soft. We're just going to go ahead and add 2 cups of vegetable stock as we had up before, and add the sugar, the 1 teaspoon of sugar. And now we're just going to let this go for about another 5 minutes, let it come to a boil again, and we're getting close to being ready to serve this. Okay, now that we have had the stock and the tomatoes boiling together for about 5 or 6 minutes, we're going to go ahead and turn off the heat, and we're going to bring in the boat motor, or the immersion blender. Many people just call it the boat motor because it looks like a boat motor. Now remember, this is extremely hot, so you don't want to splash yourself. So start off with it on a low speed if you have that. You want to just keep going until everything is nice and smooth and creamy. We'll check before we add the cream, I still have that here. We'll check the flavors, add the cream, see if we need to make any adjustments. Okay, reset. Okay, now for the basil, this is just going to be a garnish. So I'm going to go back and get my knife. The easiest way to cut basil so it looks even is to roll it up. Roll it up like this and then slice through it in nice even little strips. And when you're done, you'll have a nice little garnish to sprinkle on top of the soup, because nothing goes better with tomatoes than basil. So take a loaf of French bread, whatever you like. I prefer French. It has a nice hard crust on it. Get yourself a slice about a ½ inch thick, like so. Then take it and just cube it up. Nothing fancy. Just want to get them bite size. Now, if you don't have a toaster oven, because I'm going to put these in a toaster oven for a couple minutes until they brown up, I'm going to sprinkle a little olive oil on top of them, put them in the toaster oven, 3 to 4 minutes, they'll be perfectly crunchy and ready to go. Okay, we now have everything in our bowl. The soup is cooled a little bit. Croutons are out of the toaster oven, so we're going to take the little bit of basil that we made, sprinkle that on top. Add the croutons. The flavoring is almost perfect for me, but I'm going to add a little bit of fresh cracked pepper. And trust me, this soup, you and your family are going to love it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up button below. If you would like to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below. Next week will be chili. I'm going to try and get one of these out once a week. Stay tuned for a quick preview. And remember Charlie's first rule of the kitchen: never fry bacon when you're naked. See you next week.